That stubborn foil seal you have to peel off every new bottle of medicine. It exists because of one night in Chicago that no one saw coming. 7 people in Chicago swallowed a headache pill in September of 1982, and by nightfall, all 7 were dead. The pills looked untouched. The bottles looked sealed. Nobody had broken in. Nobody had forced anything open. And that is exactly why this case still terrifies pharmacologists more than 40 years later. The victims had taken Tylenol, the most trusted painkiller in America. Someone, to this day unidentified, had pulled bottles off store shelves in the Chicago area, pried open the capsules, replaced the powder inside with potassium cyanide, and put the bottles back on the shelf as if nothing had happened. A 12-year-old girl named Mary Kellerman took one for a cold. She died within hours. 3 members of one family died after taking pills from the very same bottle. There was no warning. There was no reason. The packaging gave absolutely no sign that anything inside had been touched. That single fact is the whole story. In 1982, a box of medicine was sealed the way a box of cereal was sealed. A cardboard flap, maybe a cotton wad inside the bottle, and that was it. Once you owned the bottle, you could open it, alter what was inside, and close it again, and no customer, no pharmacist, no inspector would ever know the difference. The Tylenol killer didn't need to break a lock. There was no lock to break. Johnson & Johnson, the company behind Tylenol, did something that had never been done before at that scale. Within a week, they pulled 31 million bottles of Tylenol off shelves nationwide, an operation that cost them roughly $100 million, at a time when their product held nearly 40% of the American painkiller market. Analysts at the time predicted the brand was finished for good. Nobody would ever trust an open capsule again. But here is the part almost nobody remembers. The man who did this was never caught. Investigators pursued more than 400 suspects. A man named James Lewis was convicted, but only for sending an extortion letter demanding $1 million to make the poisoning stop, not for the murders themselves. The FBI reopened the case as recently as 2009. It remains, officially, unsolved. Whoever stood in those Chicago stores in the fall of 1982, opening capsules and refilling them with poison, has never been named, never been tried, and never explained why. What that person could never undo was what happened to the packaging industry. Within months, the Food and Drug Administration issued a nationwide rule. Over-the-counter drugs sold in America had to be tamper-evident, meaning any attempt to open the package before purchase had to leave visible, unmistakable proof. Congress followed in 1983 with the Federal Anti-Tampering Act, making it a federal crime to tamper with consumer products, a law that did not exist before these murders forced it into being. This is where that stubborn foil seal comes from, the one still gluing itself to your fingernail every time you open a new bottle of aspirin or vitamins. It was not designed by an engineer trying to make your morning harder. It was designed, quite specifically, in direct response to 7 deaths in Chicago, as one layer of what became known as triple seal packaging. A glued outer box that tears visibly when opened, a plastic band shrink-wrapped around the cap, and that thin foil membrane sealed by heat directly onto the mouth of the bottle. Break any one of the 3, and it cannot be hidden. That was the entire design goal, not convenience, proof. Johnson & Johnson also introduced something else that year that changed pharmacy shelves forever: the caplet. A capsule-shaped tablet that was solid all the way through, harder to pull apart and refill than the 2-piece gelatin capsules the killer had used. Within about a year, tamper-evident seals were not a Tylenol feature. They were federal law, applied to every single over-the-counter medicine sold in the United States, and soon after, in most of the developed world. So the next time that foil refuses to peel cleanly, and you're standing in your kitchen mildly annoyed, digging at it with a car key or your teeth, that resistance is not bad design. It is the direct, physical echo of a federal law written because a company had no way to prove its product was safe, and people died not knowing. The packaging changed permanently. The person responsible never did get found, and the case sits open in an FBI file, waiting on a name that may never come.